You're nobody to me. You're nobody to me.
Bravo, bravissimo, fortunatissimo, 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 per verità. Sono il fantasma della città. Sono il fantasma della città. Sono il fantasma della città.
Hey guys, it's Karen. Welcome back to Little Art Talks. Chiaroscuro stems from the Italian words chiaro, which means clear or bright, and oscuro, meaning obscure or dark. In art, it refers to the arrangement of light and dark in a drawing or painting. It can also be used to achieve a sense of volume in modeling three-dimensional objects and figures. When discussing Italian art, the term is sometimes used to mean painted images in monochrome or two colors, more generally known in English by the French equivalent grisaille. The term broadened in meaning early on and now primarily covers all strong contrasts between light and dark areas in art. Chiaroscuro originated during the Renaissance's drawings on colored paper, where the artist worked from the paper's base tone towards light using white gouache and towards dark using ink, body color, or watercolor. It is said to have been invented by the Renaissance master Davinci, who discovered that he could portray depth through slow gradations of light and shadow.
this video, we're going to explore exactly how I build a vowel. And this system of building a vowel in layers can be thought of as chiaroscuro. But now we're going to go back in time. We're going to compare that to the way that I'm recommending for you to think about your vowels. And there's other ways that work that you see on stage being used successfully, and this is just what I do. So just like Michelangelo used a base color of paper, we need a base color on which we're going to build our timbre. We're going to have brighter and we're going to have darker. What's going to be brighter and what's going to be darker? Well, most people will tell you that higher pitches sound brighter to them than lower pitches. And it doesn't matter if it's a voice or what. High means bright, low means dark. So the first thing we're going to need to make our chiaroscuro is a pitch. So if we're singing, oh, that's our pitch, is C4. Next up, from our base color, we need to start building our timbre. And in this system of building a timbre, you're basically going to get three options. One is going to be a kind of a bright slate, and the other one's going to be neutral, and the other one we can call it dark. And that's very, shall we say, it's very simplified. But just stick with me for a minute. Okay, next up I'm going to cover the tongue, because the tongue can make 5 overtones while everything else is still. So no other parts of your mouth are moving but your tongue. And so that makes your tongue unique. Let's say at the same time, let's point out that many of the body parts that I'm talking about, and I say, well, this has this function. Your tongue does this, your mouth does this. When it comes to your voice, the difficulty of learning to sing, and also what makes it easy and possible for us to learn how to sing, and what makes it possible for us to do a lot of different colors and different things with the human voice, is that the parts can exchange with each other. So if your tongue was injured for some reason, it doesn't mean necessarily you can't talk. Maybe your lips can take up some of that extra movement, and they can share with your soft palate or with your larynx or whatever to try to compensate. So that's something that's going to get in our way, but also something we can use to help us. I'll show you in what I call the ventriloquist position, which is not a position we're using for any actual singing. A quick overtone scale. Now, I'm making this overtone scale in the back of my mouth. And the reason I think it's great for you to learn is because then if I'm talking to you or you're talking to someone else about where your tongue is, and we both know this overtone scale in the back of the mouth, then that doesn't matter what our idea of the vowel is. We have an idea of where to put the tongue to make the tone. And that's because where the overtone is located can only be one place as long as you're not moving anything else in the mouth. So if your lips are in the same position and your larynx isn't moving, there's only one place that these overtones can be. And you can think of, I've already mentioned some formulas where you have tones 1 through 5. We can list these as vowels. Has the same overtones, which means we can arrange our vowels on a scale, which is why I've got now tones 1 through 5. The location of the scale I just sang for you is in the back of my mouth. And we've had debates, there's lots of debates in opera singing about where should you use the vowels from the back of the mouth or from the front of the mouth. Why don't we just, for a second, look at what we can do with the tongue. So what if I raise the pitch a little bit? Yeah, let's see. And I'll bring my tongue forward and see if I can make an overtone scale in the front of my mouth. I can. And that's because the way that the pitch gets higher is actually not by going backwards or forwards, but by moving closer to the top of my mouth and further away. So if I bring my whole body forward, I can start to make vowels in the front of my mouth. And you see some kind of hilarious debates, I think, about whether or not you should use the vowels in the back or the vowels in the front. And often it's a soprano or it's a baritone. And they only sing on one side of E flat 4 for the most 90% of the time. And what I'll add to the debate is that you should be able to make vowels in the back and in the front by practicing these two overtone scales. Because when you sing above E flat 4, you should favor the front overtone scale, and when you sing below E flat 4, you should favor the one in the back. So really easy here. Learn both. The exact position of the overtones, you're going to have to learn by yourself. There's a lot of resources out there for you to learn overtone scales. But what I'm going to point out is that once you learn them, you can combine them with the other two elements I just mentioned to make vowels out of overtones. So from a scale, a musical scale, you get vowels. And that gives you a lot of freedom because it's going to take away a little bit the language component of making vowels and make it about music, about just put your tongue in that spot and you may be surprised about the vowel that you get. And you're going to have these ones in the back. And when you're making vowels in the back, when you're making overtones in the back, you'll notice that your tongue is able to interact with your soft palate, with the height of your larynx, will also change your vowel. And what's called the epiglottic funnel, which is when you chew, there's some narrowing that happens in here. And you'll be able to use that as well in coordination with your tongue to give yourself some ping, if you will, some squealo, some actually developed chest resonance. And just as important, when you go above E flat 4, you'll be able to drop that. And that's going to let you make a sound that's pleasing to the ear. Chiaroscuro. Okay, so let's start with the lip position, because it's the easiest to see. In this system, I'll be labeling this position zero. One reason to call it zero is, well, I mean, look at it. It looks like a zero. Another reason is that we're also going to have -1 and +1. And -1, it's going to give you this kind of shape. It's almost, it's kind of a smile, And if we were going from an all the way closed position, this would be the most open we will go for classical 90% of the time. Now, if we're singing extreme high notes or extreme low notes or making something extreme, we'll make exceptions. Don't worry about that. When I'm talking to you about what to do, generally I mean 90% of the time. So we will have this zero, -1, +1. And now let's talk about the neutral position. So the neutral position, it's something, it's been described as a primal sound. It's a very, very simple shape with the mouth. The jaw is quite open, and it gives quite a lot of freedom to the tongue. As far as brightness goes, it's the second darkest of the mouth positions. So if we start with the ventriloquist position, which is like, you know, what I could use to do some ventriloquism. This is very little influence. My lips have very little influence on the sound, and it's everything is done with my tongue. And if I open one notch, I have this small position. And if I open one more, I have this position. And if I open one more, I have this position. But rather than call them 1, 2, and 3, I decided I think I'm going to call this one 0. So that we get an idea that this is your home base. This is your, if you're not sure what to do. The next position is going to be -1. In this position in the lips, the best way to find it is to get to your neutral and then imagine like you're a Pez dispenser. Like you're going to peel open your head from the top rather than from the bottom. So if we have that's not what we don't want that. So all this emotion that I needed to make I replace it with motion from above. And see I have a a little bit of tension here in my face, and I'm showing these front teeth. This is a very good position below E flat 4. For instance, if I wanted a nice bright is okay, but it's brighter, it's going to carry further, well, I don't have to move my tongue. Big benefit. If I wanted to have, for instance, the sound A below E flat 4, I can make this A, So I'm kind of chewing a little bit. My tongue goes back. Let's not worry about that for now. What's important for now is to know that to get if I try to get E from this position, I get into loads of trouble. But if I go to my chiaroscuro system when I'm in trouble, and I say, well, what if I try combining this with a different slate? So when I'm trying from my neutral position, that's not very satisfactory. If I try from my -1 position, the brighter slate, it's a much more efficient way to make that timbre. So now we're starting to see that by recombining the different elements of this chiaroscuro system, we can get different colors in our vowels. The third position you will use is fully covered, is a coperto, you might hear people say. So from this neutral position, now this position really emphasizes the overtone that is 1 octave above the note that you're singing. So if I had, let's go to E flat 4. Now I have If I wanted oo, I'm not using I've made it a bit smaller. And I make a little pocket my tongue can sneak up into. And that's the +1 position. And this +1 position, interestingly enough, since it darkens the timbre, it's very useful for singing higher. And anytime you take a bright open vowel that you sang with your -1 below E flat 4, whenever you take it above E flat 4, reverse the whole thing, and you're going to sing it from your covered position. And you may have seen exercises called small oo. Small oo is going to train you to use this position. And from here, you'll add tongue, which is what we'll talk about next. We can list these as vowels. I can't. And that's because the way that the pitch gets higher is actually not by going backwards or forwards, but by moving closer to the top of my mouth and further away. So if I bring my whole body forward, some other things to note that are elements that will affect how you do this. One is the attitude of your jaw. So when you start to move your body around, you'll notice that a more anchored position, it tends to, it's natural to open the jaw back here. And that when I come forward into a covered position, it's natural to close the jaw. And this kind of gives me this snooty thing. And of course, when you're in the middle, there's not a lot, your jaw is neutral. When your jaw is neutral, you relax it, and it opens about to there. If your jaw is being pulled into a laugh, because of your body position, when you relax, it's going to be about like this. Right? And so now we've got a neutral body position that gives us this. And we've got this kind of laughing, anchored back position that gives us this when we relax. But now what happens if we are here in this position and we do this? Well, we've changed the attitude in the jaw quite a bit, because now it's taking this neutral position, right? But this is where it wants to go. So it's going against the flow. And when I'm in the middle, if I come here, it's going against the flow. When I come back and I close it a little bit, I engage the muscles for chewing. And that's significant because it can help me get the sound. But the point of talking about the attitude of the jaw is to give an idea of what attitude is. Because you can't see the jaw doing anything different. But depending on whether I'm here, or here, or here, if my jaw is in this position, it's going to require 3 different attitudes to get into that position. And we can talk about the motion of the jaw as well. So if I relax it, and I come into an anchored position, and then I start to chew as I make the sound, that's very different from just leaving it in this position and coming back here and starting the sound. It's going to result in a different attitude again. And so the 3 ones that you really should be aware of, the 3 states in the jaw, is whether your jaw is being pulled open by your posture, whether it's just being left alone by your posture, or whether your posture is really encouraging your jaw to shut. And all of these are useful if you know about them, and they are problems if you don't know about them. So I'll give you a really, really simple example of using the chiaroscuro technique to smooth out the basic break that you hear in a lot of tenor voices. There's a line I sing from Idomeneo that just goes, Eccoci salvi al fin. Nothing difficult sounding. Eccoci salvi al fin. But if we want this to work out well, we can't just sing it any old way. So if I, for instance, were to just let my jaw do whatever while my tongue stays still. Eccoci salvi al fin. This really changes the situation for the line. Because I don't have much stability in the lip position, ooh, oh, ooh, ah, you can follow those as they move from one to the other. Oh, but if I jump from oh, ah, the mind doesn't follow it very well. If in this range between C4 and E flat 4, for instance, I use E. This sound is going to be most likely too bright. Eccoci salvi al fin. Right? If I, same thing. If I use for my E flat 4, seems like it would be a good idea, right? Eccoci salvi al fin. It can't match up with the bottom. If I pay attention to all the rules I just laid out for you, I'm going to start with neutral, D4, fourth overtone. Hey, this feels good. Echo. That's easy. All I do is I go from the fourth overtone to the second overtone. Of course, I have echo in the middle, but I know exactly where I'm going. And in both of these situations, I'm taking the fourth overtone, and I'm also taking the second overtone from the back of the mouth, not from the front. If I try to take them from the front, you'll see these lips come out like this. Eccoci salvi al fin. And now I sound like one of these freaking Mozart tenors. Which, it's okay. Everything is fine. But don't do this to your sound, please. So, I take it from the back of the mouth. But I don't stay there. That's just being stupid. So if I get stuck on this idea that because one note sounded good in the back, I should take everything from the back, I miss out on the fact that E flat 4 is the only it's the only pitch in its register in this phrase, which means it gets a different formula. So why don't I try the formula I just did on my D4, and then for since it's on E flat 4, I already know the formula. I'll link to a spreadsheet or something that you can use. I'm going to use O, ah. So I'm going to use the 0 position, neutral in the lips, and I'm going to use the 3rd overtone. O. Eccoci salvial. That sounds much better than Eccoci salvial. That kind of doesn't feel good either. But now, so to recap, I did 4th overtone from the back. Yeah. I did the 2nd overtone in the back. Then I did the 3rd overtone with the neutral position, but I did the 3rd overtone in the front, so that the overtone scale in the front of my mouth. And that leaves me with a B flat 4. And on this, B flat 3, sorry. And on this B flat 3, I can't use the same solutions as before. So why don't I try though? Since I already know, let's keep this short. Why don't I try on my B flat 3, why don't I try position -1 in the lips, ah, along with the 5th overtone, and see if that lets me finish out the phrase. Eccoci salvi al fin. There's the teeth. Fin works great. Eccoci doesn't work great. The only difference is the change in the pitch. Pretty cool, right? Chiaroscuro.